So Macquarie's got this beautiful building, which he himself describes, with great pride in the newspapers. But he's got a problem, because how is he going to get them into the barracks? This is a building that looks to ordinary convict men like a workhouse, and that is not the place you wanted to end up. So what does Macquarie do? He does the classic Macquarie. He has a grand feast. Now, he always did this if he had a problem or if he wanted to celebrate something. He was really great at symbolic gestures and feasting and I guess hospitality. It's like the Harvest Home, I think. So what does he do? He announces this huge feast with roast beef and plum pudding and rum punch, and 600 men attend. Can you imagine the room and the din and the smell of the pipes, all the clay pipes being smoked at the same time, and the enjoyment of that, because that was really special food. I don't know how they cook so many plates of food, but the thing was, they were then in there and they became barracks men. And it has to be said, though, not every convict man in Sydney was in the barracks. It couldn't have held them all, I don't think, anyway. But this really was for the men who really couldn't shift for themselves. They couldn't get their own accommodation. It's not really skilled men who are married and have their own businesses, who are still convicts. Anyone with a bit of get up and go was not a barracks man. It was more for all the guys who just, there wasn't enough accommodation for them. They weren't so good at looking after themselves. That was this kind of place for them. And the architect Francis Greenway doesn't think much of them as workers. He says they stand around with their hands in their pocket because they get fed. They don't need to work for their food, right? So they live very much like they do on ships. They sleep in hammocks very close together. Again, I always think of the noise that there must have been in those big long halls with all those hammocks. And they are supposed to go out and work on various projects each day. And now, compared to before, they do have to work with overseers watching them at set times during the day. Now, that is a huge change for these people. We're used to time management. We all wear watches. In those days, people went more by sunset and sunrise and by tides, the natural world. This is now clock time that's being imposed on these men. And it's a huge development in the history of Sydney, because clock time is completely different from how most people thought about time.